Oh. Hey, welcome to FailCraft Casts. I'm Hammy. Hope you are well and good. And in this Hearthstone half hour, number 188 nonetheless, we're going to be doing our usual. We're going to be looking at a control mage, and an interesting control mage brought to us by none other than LiveMorph. I really like the look of this one. It's a little bit different. It is not the freeze mage that you're expecting, so bear that in mind. We take a look at the deck, roughly how it plays, and then we jump into casual or ladder. Today we're going to be jumping into casual because we're preserving our ladder mode, but we'll show some games of this deck in action so you can get a feel for how it plays and how it might work against different decks. So without further ado, let's take a look at this control mage and see how it goes. Now, it is a bit different. For control mage, what do you do with a control deck? You'll probably know it as control warrior, or indeed a freeze mage. Freeze mage being the most common example of control mage. You keep your opponent under control, stop their minions from doing anything, destroy their minions if you can, until the mid to mid-late game, and then if you're a mage, you pull up nasty cards such as, I don't know, Fireball and Pyroblast and all these kind of things, and Frostbolt, and you just go pew 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 pew. Lots of spells in their face, destroy them very quick. But all of the rest of the game up until that point, you are just getting them into the position to win. You're just controlling them. You use cards like Blizzard in a Frost Mage, you use cards like Frost Nova, anything that freezes your opponent in place. It means that their minions are not attacking your minions. You can slowly chip away and destroy their minions. You Frost Nova, you Blizzard, you Flame Strike, and this is a freeze mage, known since the earliest of Hearthstone times in the alpha. However, that's not the kind of control mage we're going to be looking at. This deck is interesting, and it actually legended from rank 8 to legend, and what it did was kind of take advantage a bit of the fact that mages at the moment play a lot of mirror entity. So a lot of people, when they see a mage trying to play secrets, think that mirror entity is going to be there or thereabouts. So what this deck does is try to take advantage of that by using duplicate as a main secret source. It only actually has 3 secrets, and then packing Spellbender. Now, if you can drop Spellbender at the right kind of time, it can catch a Fireball, it can catch a Sheep, it can catch a Wrath from a Druid, all kinds of stuff. So lots of spells don't target minions, so they're not going to proc the Spellbender, for example. So a lot of people will assume it's going to be a counter spell. In this deck as well, you're not going for the freezes. You are trying to grab yourself in control until the mid to mid-late game. This is not a big Pyroblast, Fireball, or instead of Pyroblast, Fireball, Frost deck will go for things like Ice Lance and all that kind of thing. You're trying to finish with minions in the mid to late game here, and how you're trying to do that is effectively controlling your opponent until then. So a bit of a different way to finish your game off, but the path that you take is also a little bit different as well. So let's jump into the cards. Mana Worm turn 1. You can drop that down and throw all of your 2-drops to try and get that Mana Worm buffed up. Against aggro, you mulligan for Mana Worm. Frostbolt, controlling minions, and again, buffing up the Mana Worm, also a mulligan choice in the early game. If you've got it against aggro or somebody who might be playing aggro, keep it. Unstable Portal, throw it down and attempt to grab tempo. You might get something amazing, you might get something useless, but if you get something great, we grabbed a Trogzor the Earthnator in our last video. I'll put a little link at the bottom. We're taking a look at a tempo mage. So this, of course, a later game mage than that. Mad Scientist, putting in the secrets, duplicate and Spellbender. The Mad Scientist, of course, the great way to grab in useful secrets, and of course will also make your opponent start worrying about mirror entities, something chronic. Duplicate, generally you want to have this in play when big minions are going to be hitting the table that are useful, or in a pinch, minions that you can use to trade and get the table under control. So duplicating 4 and 5 drops is excellent if you're trying to get Sludge Belchers back to your hand, which is brilliant, Water Elementals, Piloted Shredders, all of those good stuff to have. Of course, you don't really want to be duplicating and having loads of Mad Scientists to play. So if you can duplicate your minions, if your opponent is going to be destroying big and nasty minions of yours, and you can have a duplicate in play, that will really help you out. Kirin Mage for throwing those secrets in for free. Mind Control tech against aggro, stealing stuff back. And in the late game against some decks such as Druids, or perhaps Handlocks, stealing big and nasty minions off your opponent. Great stuff indeed. Fireballs for control as well as DPS, just nuking your opponent. Polymorph, save for the big threats. You've only got one, spend it wisely. Kezan Mystic, popular, oh so popular in this meta. As we've said, secrets are commonplace. Hunters, secrets galore. Mages very often packing a bunch of secrets. And Paladins, of course, dropping an odd secret or two. So being able to steal your opponent's secret off of them, or steal back your own secret that your opponent's stolen off you with a Kezan, can either restore tempo, balance things out, or perhaps help you out and grab the initiative in the game for you. Piloted Shredder, 2 for 1, good for trades. Nothing else to say about that, all around awesome card. Water Elemental. You probably want to grab one of these. It's sometimes even worth holding if you're going second with a coin, if you're playing against warriors, paladins, rogues, anything hitting you with a weapon. Potentially shamans, but you probably want to get yourself more under control in the early game against a shaman so they don't get board control. Healbot, this is a control deck, so we need to get some health back. We're going to take a beating to a degree. Healbot lets us do that. Jones, again, against weapons decks, could be swapped out if you're not playing weapon heavy meta, if there's not loads of weaponly control warrior type people flying around. So, good stuff. Sludge Belcher. Big welcome to Gillet Gaming. Good to have you with us live on twitch.tv/FailCraft Cast. 2 Belchers interrupt, disrupt the middle of the game really, really nicely, and then can also set you up for your win condition. If you've got the table under control by this point, it's going to be hard for your opponent to get back through the Belchers. Sylvannas again can help us turn the tide if our opponent has lots of big minions on the table. Remember, of course, we can do things like fireballing our own Sylvannas. You can destroy your own Sylvannas to steal your opponent's minions. Do it tactically so that you steal the stuff you want. And then our finishers. Toshli is an interesting inclusion here. The 2 spare parts can be very, very handy. The freeze, of course, the swapping and the cloaking, all kinds of good stuff. Or even just a +1 attack or +1 health can make that difference between life and death. 5 attack, 7 health will let Toshli do some great trading. He can survive hitting a Sludge Belcher a couple of times. He can hit a Sludge Belcher and still be pretty alive. Flame Strike clears the table, and then Boom and Ragnaros complete our finishing cards. If we have the table under control by this point, then we finish off with those. Of course, this is not like a standard freeze mage or a standard mage control. We're not going to go too late into the game, so we need to make sure that we get the game finished by then. Okay, that is our brief deck summary. What we're now going to do is jump on in. You can see we're just sort of wanting to try and get 3 stars. That's our win streak, so I'm not going to try and interrupt that at this point, but we will come back and play this deck on ladder on another occasion. So let's see what we can do here. Now remember, of course, in casual mode, new players, experienced players, amazing players testing out their tournament decks and similar, right down to brand new players. So what this will not necessarily do is give us an idea, depending on the deck we play, of how this may fare on highest ranks of ladder, but what it will do is just let us understand, play and learn, and have a nice little feel as to how this deck plays out. So, in terms of mulligan strategy, I'm playing a priest. I have no secrets. I don't know if I'm going to draw into one. For that reason, I'm going to hit up a hard mulligan. I'm going to keep the Mad Scientist because that will pull a secret into play. I don't need to double up with the Curing Tool. And then Mana Worms, Frostbolts, Unstable Portals would be good. Instead, I draw late game cards, which is not so great. But it will still let us start with our Mad Scientist. Now, Coining could actually help me get out something here a little bit earlier, but really I've only got the Healbot. This could be a very, very early target. Probably saving the coin for something a bit more mid-game droppy would be good. Righty then. Mad Scientist, remember, called priests. You can have control-y priests. There was a Death Rattle priest before Undertaker. Simple play, obvious one, Shadow of Pain, gone. What's our secret? Spellbender. Okay, this is the first time that we're going to see Spellbender in action. One little fireball. Down goes Dark Cultist, so we are expecting potentially kind of a control-y priest. We will see our organised. This could well be a competitive ladder style deck, so this is going to be a good example where we can try and see ourselves in action. Curing Tool Mage, so we could just throw this on down, but we're losing, of course, the opportunity to play a secret there, but we only have 3 secrets in the deck. For that reason, I'm going to throw this down and try and encourage the trade. Now, because of the Death Rattle on Dark Cultist, our priest opponent is going to want a minion on the table, so that if the Dark Cultist dies, then the random friendly minion gets the health benefit. And what would be better than an Injured Blade Master? It's a really good choice. making the trade straight up and actually trading in, making sure that he gets the healing effect. I remember, of course, that a Blade Master can have potentially a highest of 7 health if it's healed up, so that could go very, very high indeed. A Fireball would be a very nice straightforward control here to keep stuff sorted. Alternatively, I could pilot a Shredder. I'm just going to go straight for the Fireball. Now, Spellbender. Let's see exactly if that saves us a little bit. Down goes a second Blade Master. In comes a second heal. So far this is a control-y type mid-range priest that we know and love. Okay, so I would love to have the Shredder down for a duplicate. Polymorph, I think that we're going to have bigger fish to fry. So I'm going to throw down the Shredder, try and encourage a trade. We'll probably see a heal and a zap. Might have been a better plan to drop duplicate before dropping a minion. We will see if not using Polymorph there. Down goes a Cleric. The heal is going to allow card draw, which is going to be a little bit of a pain. So our Priest getting nicely set up here, and we can see Blade Master now easily able to trade away my Shredder if they so choose. Yep, they've gone for it. Let's see what our random 2-drop is. Couldn't be more useless. An Novice Engineer is not going to be setting the world on fire. However, not to worry. Now we have some interesting options. I could just straight up Toshli, and what this would actually do is allow us to put some good pressure on our opponent. The heal bot I do not need. Notice that no spells have been cast on minions at this point. Duplicate is not going to hugely benefit the Novice Engineer. I'm going to Toshli. Now that's pretty sticky minion. On turn 7, and remember of course, if my opponent tries to zap it with a spell, then a 1/3 is going to be the new target. However, my opponent can't quite trade it with the things on the table. The only way they could probably get rid of that is zapping a minion. Circle of Healing, restoring health to all minions, of course allowing them to draw a card. There's the Shadow of Death, and here is where Spellbender comes into play. And oh, it actually destroys it. Okay, so the minion has 5 attack or more, but even though Spellbender only has 1 attack and 3 health, it still destroys the minion. But because I managed to sponge up that Shadow of Death, that has thrown a little bit of tempo in my favour, which is good. Down that comes. I think we're probably going to see another card draw here. A little bit of a waste by my opponent. They could have done that attacking move beforehand and then done the Circle of Healing a bit more in general. Okay, now we have some good options. Duplicate could let me grab 2 Toshlis back to my hand. What I'm going to do is just deny the card draw. I'm going to throw in a Duplicate. That's going to be very nice. If Toshli goes down, then he's going to spring up stronger and better. And I'm going to start laying into my opponent's son. Remember, of course, Shadow of Death is just going to nerf Toshli, but then 2 Toshlis come back to hand. And I can throw down Doc Boom next go. If anything big, if my opponent throws down a Doc Boom, then we've also got a Big Game Hunter to zap that away as well. Straight to face, interesting. My opponent is not backward in coming forward. Obviously feeling quite confident about what they've got in their hand here. And this is a reasonably solid priest deck. This is looking quite laddery, so I think this is a reasonably good example of how this deck may work for us. Righty, down goes the Cultist. Remember, of course, we would prefer that the Cultist dies after our Blade Master friend. So a few options here. Do we just poly straight up? Do we go in for an unstable portal? Do we really try and grab table control with Doc Boom? So first things first, I think we've got a nice little option here. If I decide to... I can sponge with Toshli. Just zap that one in. And you can see that I've just totally negated that threat. Now I can unstable portal. Let's see what we get. RNGesus gives us a Mana Wraith, so not awesome. Okay, now I could Mana Wraith, but all minions costing 1 more is actually not something I really want at this point in time. Actually, you know what? No, it's not too bad. It will slow my opponent down more than me, because I can throw down Doc Boom next turn anyway. If my opponent wants to try and stuff the table full of minions, they're not going to perhaps be able to do something else. So I don't mind that Mana Wraith too much. Let's see if that's a duff play. With Toshli, of course, remember we've still got Duplicate going. Oh, duplicating 2 Mana Wraiths. That's why I shouldn't have played the Mana Wraith. A really duff Duplicate there. Not so good. But Doc Boom can hit the table and we can start pressing forward. So I've wasted my own duplicate a bit. I certainly don't want to play 2 mana wraiths unless I have such solid table control that I just do not care. 4 mana, what could we see? We're just going to see a heal and nothing else by the sounds of things. So tempo at the moment in our favour. Mind control tech not going to be of huge use here. I don't mind dropping into a boom. Now, 2 options. I can either mana wraith and try and slow my opponent down, or I can finicky cloak field to protect boom so that he'll be in a position to hit next turn. I'm going to see what mana wraith does. Let's see if mana wraith actually makes a practical difference. Really, at this stage of the game, my opponent can play a couple of minions tops, so they play a Belcher and something else. 5 mana and then another play. Might stop, deny them. In comes Holy Nova, everything's strafed off the table. In comes 2 bombs. I do 6 out of potential 8 damage, 5 mana left to go. If we see a Holy Fire, then that's a very nice clearance and heal. My opponent throwing down a Belcher, and throwing down that Belcher when my mana wraith is dead. Nicely done. So a poly would have been very nice here. As is, it's going to be a little awkward for me to remove. What I am going to do at this point is, it's a sensible time to throw down a heal bot. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Get yourself nicely healed up. Throw down Mana Worm as well. A Mana Wraith could slow my opponent down again. Why not? Let's go for some of that. And Doc Boom is not hitting my opponent in the face, but what I can do is actually throw down a Cloak Field. I think that's a nice time for a Cloak Field. Unless there's another Holy Nova or something out of my opponent, then Boom is going to survive to fight another day. I can sacrifice my Mana Wraith in. It's the March of the Mana Wraiths. We're really trying to make these folks useful. 10 mana, of course, we're vulnerable to mind control and a bunch of other priest shenanigans at this point. So we are not done yet.
Let me change your mind.
And very nice tempo play by our priest friend there. Cabal Shadow Priest nicking my Mana Worm, so that's going to slow me down a bit. If they played another minion, I could have mind control teched and stolen something back. But alas, it was not to be at this point. Okay, so the Mana Wraith is in play, is causing problems. Not a huge fan of that. Running the programs, and I really think that Water Elemental is fine for us at this point. I'm going to... One of those are attacked. So I've got some slightly funky options here. I can do that. I can actually keep Doc Boom alive. Maybe that's worth a go. Doc Boom can chip away for 2. I can potentially use him for doing some trading there. So we'll go for our reversing switch. Alrighty then, so Doc Boom would have died anyway, would have been an obvious sacrifice target. Now, could be used to make a trade for this Cabal Priest. Could be used to control everything on the table. Let's see if I was just being a bit gimmicky with that reversing switch play or not. Shadow Word Pain, there you go. My opponent actually gets a free removal. Did not have a Shadow Word Death, maybe they do, but they could just get rid of that with Pain, so probably not the best play.
Is someone injured?
Then goes a Cleric. Going to damage himself and draw a card with the heal. Keep himself in play, draw a card. Now we are looking to get ourselves in for the kill. Belcher is going to hit the deck. I think that we're going to take away this to avoid any too much trouble. Cheeky little freeze. Could have frozen the Cabal Shadow Priest, of course. But I just want to try face now. We want to see if we can grab some spells. And of course, Ragnaros himself is also around. But Thought Steal can always cause problems. Unstable Portal. What a thing to Thought Steal. And we're probably going to see some evil legendary minion. But sometimes you get those in your favour, sometimes you don't. The joys of a random number generation. Excuse me there, try not to deafen you.
You gotta be kidding me!
Venture Co-Mercenaries, my opponents. I had lethal anyway there, because we had 3/6 and a fireball. So good stuff. Okay, so against a reasonable priest deck there, I think that was a pretty ladder-worthy deck. It looked like a sort of standard control type priest. Let's jump into one more final game and see if we can get something else, see exactly how our control mage can work in a bit of a different context perhaps. Righty then, we have a hunter. Okay, so good, always good to see this. Control versus aggro. So what do we need? Well, we're going first. Okay, a little bit hairy. We've got a mana worm, that's good. Mulligan away the other two. We are looking for Unstable Portal, Mad Scientist, Frostbolt. We get at least one of those, so that's great. We have the beginnings of a curve. The Belcher is not so bad, but of course, if the Hunter is rushing us to the face, we could be well down by then. However, 2 Mad Scientists, I'm happy with that. We can get Duplicates, we can get Spellbender, so either of those will help a lot. Now, of course, if we're just duplicating more Mad Scientists, and our opponent does rush us, it's going to be a all-on tradey, a real example of how we can keep our table together. And what we may get to see a bit in this game is the effectiveness of Kezan Mystic. We're playing Hunter, Hunter will drop secrets, and we've talked up Kezan Mystic as being our source of cool trades. So let's see if Kezan Mystic can grab us some tempo here. In comes a coin for a 3-drop, what are we going to see? Animal Companion, sensible play, and we get a Misha, so we've got a tanky bear in the house. Now Duplicate comes into force. First things first, I can get a free Duplicate by throwing that down. Let's see what this is. Oh, it's a Spellbender. Okay, in that case, do I want to be pulling multiple Mad Scientists? Probably not. I could just trade this off the table now. I can Duplicate, and then I can get rid of our bear friend. So we've managed to make it to turn 4, we've not taken any damage, and we've got 2 secrets in play. Nice. Liking that a lot. In comes an Undertaker. Not as strong as it used to be. You would of course have +1 attack and health for any minion summoned with Death Rattle. But we see what is probably a Death Rattle Hunter here. There we go, the rush is on. Now we need to keep an eye out for secrets. Unstable Portal feels like a play here. Firstly we'll go for that, and then we've got a Fireball in reserve. Fire Elemental, look at that. And when we can play that next turn, we can do 3 damage to anything, so we can pick off the Undertaker next go. As a result, I'm just going to take the damage on the chin. And that shows you the joys of Unstable Portal. We've had some good luck. We managed to pick into a Trogzor the Earthinator earlier with Unstable Portal. And fortunate on this occasion to get a Fire Elemental, which is not only going to let us grab a beautiful bit of tempo. Mad Scientist, interesting. Okay, what we're going to do is zap away the Undertaker, and then probably look to steal the secret with Kezan Mystic the turn afterwards. I love it very much. Okay, in comes a Fire Elemental of all things, and my opponent will be staring at that going, what? Other options, Mad Scientist for trades. I'm just going to Fireball this one actually. Yeah, I'm going to Fireball him. The best thing is if my opponent does remove this Fire Elemental, we've got Duplicate, so 2 more Fire Elementals will be firing back to our hand, ready to be unleashing the Battle Cry of 3 damage of doom as much as we like. And against an aggro Undertaker deck, there we go, there it goes, and there it comes back. Duplicate at its finest. And the thing is, we're just coming into that sweet spot as well. Very, very sweet spot indeed. So here I have no qualms about just going goodbye, and I'm going to steal whatever this secret is with Kezan Mystic next turn. So Mad Scientist is now redundant because we have seen actually, could we pull another Duplicate? I think we could. So Mad Scientist, sorry, is not redundant whatsoever. That can still get us a free secret. So for that reason, and on our 7-drop next play, I think Kezan and Mad Scientist, and then we could drop into a Mana Worm as well. Coolness. Okay. There we have it. Job done. So there we go. That's our very quick introduction to Control Mage. We managed to, on both occasions, grab the game in control in the early to mid game. And on that occasion we got a favourable Unstable Portal, which of course did randomly help us a bit. In the other game we still managed to grab control. Duplicate really helped us there, putting Duplicate into play with the Mad Scientist, meaning that we had lots of fire elementals to come up and wreck control with as well. So a nice deck there. Feels a little bit funny, not a freeze deck, but I can see how that would be quite nice. I'd actually really like to try that on ladder, so who knows, maybe later in the week, depending on how I go up and down, we'll jump in and try this Tempo Mage and Control Mage as well. So thank you so much for tuning in, been good to have you with us. If you're on YouTube, why not come and join us? You can see twitch.tv/FailCraft Cast just here. We go live Monday through Friday, times in the bottom left, and we'll always tweet on @FailCraftCast on with an S on Twitter when we're going live. If you're on YouTube, welcome, do subscribe, like, comment, let us know what you think, how could we improve this for you. But of course, if you're not on YouTube, youtube.com/FailCraftCasts. If you throw a sub there, over 180 Hearthstone half hours and shorter episodes that we've done. Pick your own arenas, little bits and bobs for newer to intermediate players like myself, trying to learn and play and all learn together. And then some news, deck guides, and lots of other stuff there too. So go check it out. Thanks very much for tuning in. Hopefully see you soon, and take it easy.